I'm 28. Have been married to Claire, 27, for 2 years. We had what I thought was a solid thing. I am not the type who needs some perfect romantic fairy tale. I have built a good life for myself, a solid career, a nice house, and a vision for the future. And Claire fit perfectly into that. She is smart, funny, and cunning enough to keep me on my toes. We worked well together, like a team. I did not think I would ever have to doubt her. She was not just my wife. She was my partner in every sense of the word. I still remember the way she supported me when I lost a promotion I had been chasing. "You will get the next one," she said with her hand on mine. "You are unstoppable." I believed her then. Now, I do not know who she is. Then there is James, 27, my younger brother. The guy is basically the picture of charm. Growing up, he was the favorite. Everyone loved him, and he knew how to use it. Teachers, girlfriends, even our parents. It was always James this, James that. Meanwhile, I was the guy working hard, actually earning my keep. But I am not bitter, well, maybe a little. Growing up though, James and I were inseparable. He was not just my brother. He was my best friend. We spent summers building forts, taking the blame for each other's troubles, and shielding each other from the world. Sure, James was always the golden boy, our parents' favorite, but that did not matter back then. We had each other, which is why this betrayal hurt so much. When Claire and I got married, James hit it off with her immediately, which did not bother me. Family is family. He would come over to hang out, tell jokes, be his usual entertaining self. I thought Claire just saw him as my funny brother. Nothing more. She is too smart to fall for his smooth talker crap, and James knows better than to mess with my life. Or so I thought. But then James started showing up more. Not just for family dinners or casual weekend beers. Normal stuff. I am talking about weekday visits when I was not home. I would come back from work and Claire would casually say, "Oh, James came by for lunch." At first, I brushed it off. Cool, I guess. But then it started happening a lot. One night, I came home early and found them on the couch, laughing at something on his phone. Claire noticed me and immediately locked her screen, her smile fading. I felt a pit in my stomach. I did not say anything. No point without proof. But the way she avoided eye contact stuck with me. Later that night, I tried to play it cool. "So, what was so funny earlier with James?" I asked. Claire shrugged. "Oh, just a meme. Nothing serious." I let it slide, but my radar went haywire. Something did not feel right. The next day, I decided to test the waters during dinner. I casually said, "James has been around a lot lately. Does not he have better things to do?" Claire rolled her eyes and laughed. "He is your brother. Do not be so dramatic. He just likes to hang out." That answer did not sit well with me. People do not just like to hang out with married couples for no reason. But I kept my cool. No point in losing my temper when you do not have all the information. I am not a guy who shoots from the hip. Looking back, I can see the cracks in Claire's behavior that I ignored. She had been restless lately, talking about wanting more from life, feeling trapped. I thought I was doing enough, but maybe not. Maybe James stepped in where I failed. Not that it excuses what they did. It just makes me wonder if she was looking for something, anything, to fill whatever void she thought she had. That night, I called Eric, my best friend since college. If anyone could help me figure out this mess, it was him. "You are overthinking it," Eric said at first, his voice calm and measured. "James is annoying. Sure, but he is your brother. Claire is smart. She would not cross a line like that." "I do not know, man," I replied. "There is something about the way they have been acting. It is too familiar." Eric paused, then sighed. "Okay, let us say you are not imagining things. What are you going to do about it?" "I do not know yet," I admitted. "But if I find out they are crossing the line, they are both out of my life." "Good," Eric said firmly. "You do not deserve that kind of betrayal. Keep your eyes open and, whatever you do, do not let them make you feel crazy. Trust your gut." Then came the barbecue party. A harmless family gathering, or so I thought. We were all in the backyard, grilling burgers, when one of my cousins cracked a joke. "Man, Claire and James are like 2 peas in a pod." Everyone laughed, but I clenched my jaw. It was not just me who saw it anymore. Other people were noticing it. That is when it hit me that this was not just in my head. Since then, I have been watching, not obsessively. I am not some insecure guy who needs to control his wife's every move. But I am not blind either. The way they exchange those subtle glances, the little inside jokes I am not a part of, the way Claire always defends him whenever I bring him up, it all adds up. For now, I have been letting them think I am clueless, playing the long game. But, deep down, I know this is not going to end well. And if they think I am going to sit back and watch this happen, they are dead wrong. At this point, I knew I needed help. I did not just want to catch them. I wanted to make sure I had all my angles covered. That is when I called a friend of mine, Mark, who is a beast in family law. The guy is a shark in a suit, and I knew he would have my back. He is not just any lawyer. He is a family friend who has seen it all, and he is damn good at his job. Something is off. I told him what I suspected. As much as it hurts to tell others you feel your brother and wife are betraying you, I needed help, and I did not want to play dirty. I do not have much yet, but my gut says they are hiding something. Mark did not ask for details. He is not one to waste time on speculation. Get me proof, he said, his voice firm. Then we will figure out how to handle it. Let me make one thing clear. I am not the kind of man who tolerates disrespect. Call it old-fashioned. But loyalty is the line that does not get crossed. Ever. So, when things with Claire and James started to feel off, I did not just sit back and hope for the best. I do not wait for the storm to pass. I walked straight into it. And this storm, it had been brewing for way too long. The opportunity to act came when I had to go out of town for work. Or at least that is what I let Claire think. I packed my bag, told her I would be gone for 3 days. But, instead of heading to the airport, I checked into a hotel across town. It was not paranoia, it was strategy. If something was going on, I needed to see it with my own eyes. Words and assumptions mean nothing. Proof is everything. The first day was quiet. Claire texted me constantly, keeping up the act like everything was normal. Miss you, she wrote. Hope work is not too stressful. I almost laughed. She was good. I will give her that. But I have learned over the years that the people who are best at lying always slip up eventually. By day 2, my instincts were rewarded. Around noon, I got an alert from the tracking app one had quietly installed on her phone. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But trust me, when there is this much at stake, you do not leave things to chance. She was not at home. She was not at the grocery store or anywhere she would normally be. She was at James' apartment. I do not remember feeling anger in that moment. What I felt was colder, like everything inside me had sharpened. I gripped the steering wheel, waiting for them to come out, not because I needed more proof, but because I needed to see how far this would go. If Claire and James were crossing a line, I was not going to let them pretend otherwise. An hour later, they walked out of his place together. Their laughter echoed down the street as they walked towards her car, like they did not have a care in the world. James was grinning like he was on top of the world. My brother, my wife, they thought they were getting away with it. I followed them to a coffee shop, parked across the street, and watched as they sat there, leaning in, talking like no one else existed. It was not innocent. Her hand brushed his arm at one point, and my chest tightened, not from pain, from the pure, burning realization that these two had the audacity to disrespect me this way. My camera app clicked as I took pictures, each one a nail in the coffin of whatever they thought they could get away with. But something did not add up. It was not just the sneaking around. It was the way Claire had been withdrawing small amounts of cash from our accounts over the past few months. At first, I thought it was just her usual spending, but the pattern felt deliberate. Mark confirmed my suspicions 2 days later. The money has been funneled into an account that does not belong to either of you, he said during one of our calls. It is under the name Victor Kane. Who the hell is Victor Kane? I asked. That is a problem, Mark said bluntly. He has scammed people out of thousands of dollars through bogus investments. He has been flagged for fraud multiple times, but he is slippery. No convictions yet. Looks like he has got James involved in one of his schemes. And your wife, she has been funding it, whether she knows it or not. My stomach churned. This was not just an affair anymore. James and Claire were not just betraying me. They were being used. And now my money was tangled up in whatever game this Victor Kane was running. That was a lot to process. It was all swirling around like a storm in my mind. But I had to take things step by step to understand what was happening in my life. The next day, I walked into my house earlier than expected. Claire was at the kitchen counter, sipping her coffee, phone in hand. She looked up and froze for half a second before forcing a smile. You are back early. How was the trip? I dropped my bag by the door and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. I cut it short. Thought I would surprise you. She laughed, but there was a sharp edge to it. Well, that is great. I nodded, not saying much. I wanted her to feel the silence, to stew in it. Claire does not handle silence well. It makes her nervous. Sure enough, she started babbling about her day, trying to fill the void. I just watched her, calm and collected. Then I made my first move. So, how has James been lately? I asked, keeping my tone casual, like I was asking about the weather. Her spoon froze in midair. Good, I guess. Why? No reason. Just seems like you two have been spending a lot of time together. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Are you really doing this again? He is your brother. Yes, I said, leaning back in my chair. My brother. Funny how that works. She clenched her jaw. You are being paranoid. You have been working too much. Maybe you should take a break. I smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Maybe I should. She did not see it coming when I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. The pictures were right there, in plain sight, her and James at the coffee shop, laughing, leaning in too close. The blood drained from her face as she stared at the screen. It is not what it looks like. She stammered. Classic. Predictable. I tilted my head. Then what is it? Because it looks like my wife and my brother are sneaking around behind my back. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Just tears, big, dramatic ones. The kind meant to manipulate. But I was not moved. Not anymore. Save it, I said, my voice low and steady. I gave you the benefit of the doubt for weeks. I trusted you. And this is how you repay me? Nothing happened. She cried. We were just talking. Talking. I repeated, leaning forward. At his apartment? At a coffee shop? When you thought I was not around? That is an interesting way to talk. She tried to deny it again, but the words sounded hollow. She knew she had been caught. That night, I packed a bag. Claire begged me to stay, saying we could work it out. But there is no working things out with someone who is willing to betray you like that. Trust does not grow back once it is broken. As I walked away, something shifted inside me. The old version of myself, the one who trusted too easily, the one who believed in loyalty without question, he was gone. What replaced him was sharper, harder, the kind of man who does not let things slide. If Claire and James thought this was over, they were dead wrong. I did not pack my bag and walk out of that house to sulk. I left because I needed distance to plan my next move. I am not the type to let emotions take the wheel. Every step I took after that was calculated, deliberate. They thought they had gotten away with it, that I would back down. But I have never backed down from a fight in my life. And I was not going to start now. The day after I left, I told Mark everything. The pictures, the tracking app logs, and the way Claire could not even look me in the eye after I confronted her. Mark is the kind of guy who relishes tearing people apart in court. And when I handed him that evidence, his smile told me I was in good hands. This is not just an affair, Mark said, flipping through the pictures I had taken. It is calculated, premeditated. He was right. The way they moved, the secrecy, the lies, it was not just a tryst. It was a plan. And when Mark suggested we dig deeper, I did not hesitate. If there was more to uncover, I wanted it all to come to light. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this was not just about an affair. James had always been jealous of my career, my house, my life. He used to joke about it, but now I wondered if it was more than a joke. And Claire, she had mentioned feeling trapped a time or two, but I had brushed it off. Maybe I should have paid more attention. Maybe she wanted something more than I could give her. Or maybe this was simply who they were. Two people willing to destroy someone else to get what they wanted. While Mark got to work, I focused on James. He was the key to all of this. Claire's betrayal hurt. But James, my brother, that hurt more. It was not just about the affair. It was the sheer audacity of thinking he could steal from me. Because that is what this was about. I was not just dealing with infidelity. They were planning to take what I had built, piece by piece. The breakthrough came 2 days later. Mark called me with a new piece of the puzzle, financial irregularities in our joint accounts. Claire had been quietly withdrawing money, small amounts at first, then larger sums. Mark had traced the transfers to a hidden account, one with James' name on it. That is not the worst of it, Mark said. There is a trail of messages between her and James. They are talking about leaving you with nothing. That hit me like a freight train, but not in the way you might think. I was not shocked. I was not hurt. I was furious. They were not just sneaking around. They were plotting to blindside me, to leave me with nothing. And for what? So they could play house together while I picked up the pieces? I was stumbling around and my lack of sleep was beginning to show at work. My boss pulled me aside after a meeting. You have been distracted lately, he said. What is going on? I opened my mouth to explain. But what was I supposed to say? That my wife and brother were conspiring against me? That my personal life was a dumpster fire? Instead, I nodded and promised to refocus. The last thing I needed was for their betrayal to cost me my career too. So, I decided to transfer everything to secure accounts in my name only. No ties to Claire. No way for her to siphon off anything else. When they realized what had happened, they were completely blocked. No money. No way to access anything I owned. And no clue how to fix it. That is when I hit her with the divorce papers. Mark did not just draw up a standard set of documents. He built a case so airtight Claire would have no choice but to sign. Thanks to the evidence of her affair and her attempts to rob me, she had no leverage. No chance of getting a penny more than she was entitled to, which as far as I was concerned was nothing. When the papers arrived at her door, she called me immediately. Her voice was shaking, part rage, part desperation. You are divorcing me? She hissed, as if this was some shocking betrayal. You cannot just throw everything away like this. I almost laughed at her audacity. Throw everything away? I said. Claire, you did that. The moment you started sneaking around with James. The moment you decided to take what was not yours. I'm just cleaning up the mess you made. She tried to guilt-trip me. That is what Claire does best. She mentioned the years we had spent together. The good times. As if that erased everything else. We can fix this, she said, her voice cracking. We can work it out. I cut her off. No, we cannot. There is no coming back from this. Sign the papers, Claire, or do not. Either way, we are done. I hung up before she could respond. There was nothing left to say. Then it was James' turn. Getting him fired from his cushy job was a good start, but it was not enough. He thought he could coast on his charm forever, but I was about to make sure no one in his professional circle ever trusted him again. I reached out to a few contacts, people who knew James but did not owe him anything, and laid out the truth. I did not exaggerate or embellish. I simply told them exactly what he had done. The affair, the stolen money, the betrayal. I even forwarded them some of the evidence Mark had gathered. Now, James tried interviewing for other jobs, but word spread quickly. No one wanted to hire a man who would betray his own brother. A week later, James called me. It was the first time I had heard from him since our confrontation at his apartment. His voice was frantic, a mixture of anger and desperation. I cannot get a job, he said, his voice rising. You have ruined my reputation. I leaned back in my chair, letting his words hang in the air. You ruined your reputation. James, I just made sure people knew the truth. Come on, man, he pleaded. We are family. That word, family, triggered something in me. You do not get to use that word. You stopped being family the moment you decided to stab me in the back. I did not mean for it to go this far, he said, his tone shifting to pathetic. I was stupid. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to lock your car. I snapped. What you did was calculated. You knew exactly what you were doing, and now you are paying for it. Do not call me again. James, we are done. I hung up and blocked his number. Whatever happened to him after that was not my problem, but dealing with him was not enough. I needed to rebuild myself. For too long, I had let Claire's lies and James' betrayal consume me. Now I was done with that. I started hitting the gym harder than ever. Every rep, every mile, every drop of sweat felt like taking back control. I focused on work, diving into projects I had put off for months. I reconnected with friends I had not seen in years. People I had let drift away because I was too wrapped up in Claire's bullshit. It was not just about keeping busy. It was about proving to myself that I could move on, that I could be better, sharper, stronger. Every step I took away from them was a step towards a better version of myself. I also reconnected with old friends, people I had distanced myself from while trying to make my marriage work. Eric said something that stuck with me. You are not the guy I used to know, but in a good way. You are sharper, stronger. It felt good to hear that. Like, I was finally becoming the person I was meant to be. When the divorce was finalized, Claire had gone radio silent. She signed the papers without a fight, probably realizing she had no other choice, and vanished. No more texts, no more calls. She knew she had lost. James, he also slinked off into the shadows. Last I heard, he had moved out of town, probably hoping to escape the mess he had made. Good. Let him run. Let him try to start over somewhere else. I did not care anymore. They were ghosts to me now. Victor Kane was not done with them, though. Mark discovered that Victor had been pressuring James and Claire for more money after the account was frozen. Victor does not let people just walk away. Mark told me. He will squeeze them dry before letting go. A part of me wanted to warn them, but I stopped myself. They had chosen to work with him. They had chosen to betray me. If Victor turned on them, that was their problem, not mine. Still, it was satisfying to imagine James and Claire scrambling to clean up the mess they had created. Looking back, it is hard to describe how all of this changed me. I do not trust as easily anymore, but I do not see that as a bad thing. Trust is earned, not given. And loyalty, that is not just expected. It is mandatory. Claire and James thought they could destroy me, but all they did was remind me who I really am. So here I am now, sharper, stronger, smarter. They tried to burn me, but all they did was light a fire under me. If there is one thing I have learned, it is this: you can lose everything, but as long as you do not lose yourself, you can rebuild. And I will be damned if I let anyone try to destroy me again. But I actually am curious how their lives will turn out after the mess they left behind. If I hear anything new, I will post it here. Stay tuned. All right, everyone. Before we dive into the final update, I have a small request. We put a lot of effort into finding these incredible stories for you every day, and your support means a lot to us. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to the channel It really helps us grow and allows us to continue bringing you more amazing stories. Thank you. Now, let us get into the final update. Final update. Hey everyone. It has been a while. A lot has happened since my last post, and I thought it was time for an update. The financial fallout for my brother James did not stop with the frozen account. Remember how Claire and James tried to create that secret stash of stolen money? Well, the bank flagged the transfers, and since they were linked to fraudulent activities, they both got hit with hefty fines. Claire managed to scrape together enough to pay her share, probably sold off whatever she could. But James, he did not have the funds. From what I have heard, he has been struggling to make the payments and is now dealing with debt collectors. The irony is almost poetic. He tried to take what was not his, and now he is drowning in bills he cannot pay. Oh, and I recently learned through mutual contacts that James officially skipped town. Apparently, he could not handle the shame of what he did and decided to get a fresh start somewhere else. Honestly, I think it is for the best. He burned every bridge here, professional, personal, and within our family. The funny thing? Even though he is gone, his reputation still follows him. People talk, and his actions have become the kind of story that spreads quickly. Wherever he goes, he will have to carry the weight of what he did. If you had asked me a few months ago how I felt about James, I would have said I hated him. But now, I do not feel anything. He is just irrelevant. I do not need revenge or closure or any of that. I have moved on and built a life where his existence no longer matters. That is the best part about karma. It does not need any help. It takes care of things on its own. All I had to do was step back and let it do its work.